Russell Clay here with the pitcher nail down. You can find me on Twitter at Russell J. Clay. Obviously, this is for Daily Fantasy Cafe. We're going to check out the pitching slate for June 14th, 2016. Let's get into it. We're obviously on our projections page at dailyfantasycafe.com. If you haven't checked that out yet, you definitely should. I threw two models in there, the opponent team run total and the money line. Obviously, that shifts the cafe value based on what the model says and sort of what happens with those money lines and with the opponent team run total. So I always plug those in at the beginning of my research during the day. And as you can see, some of the names pop up. We're going to go in order of salary, though. So let's start off at the top. Madison Bumgarner, 13.8 on DK, 36.94 projection in our system, 11.33 cafe value. Gotta love that. Minus 257 money line. Against this Milwaukee team, it's just a super tough matchup for the Brewers, and I don't see any way they're going to really survive this one. So I pretty much agree with this projection, and that's a guy I'm looking at for cash. I think on both sites, you can pretty much lock him in for cash consideration. In terms of John Lackey, that 6.86, that definitely makes sense to me. I am not touching him tonight against that Nationals team. You got to be worried about Daniel Murphy and Bryce Harper hitting from the opposite side of the plate there. So definitely fading there. Pomeranz, gotta love that discount there off of Bumgarner. He is a super value, and he's been pitching great all year. Hasn't quite got the wins to show for it, but as we know, wins are definitely shifted by how the offense plays and sort of who you're going up against. So two matchups against Clayton Kershaw already hasn't done well for his win total. But in terms of everything else, he's been dominant. Definitely a guy I'm looking at there. Jacob deGrom, another guy you're sort of looking at. You're a little worried about Pittsburgh, especially with Gregory Polanco and John Jaso batting from the left side of the plate. But again, cafe value's good, projection's good, solid favorites, should get the win. I do like that play quite a bit. Bumping down to Kenta Maeda, I think he's a decent tournament play. Obviously, he isn't the perfect option, but when you consider the Diamondbacks and sort of if he can shut down Goldschmidt in any shape, way, or form, I think he has a good shot at a quality start there. So I like the minus 149 total. So give me that in a tournament, deep tournament play for sure. Moving down here, David Price, 9,700. Solid play. I actually think this is a decent opportunity for him. The Orioles have a super high strikeout percentage, and Price has slowly done better with the strikeouts this year. So I think that's something to look at for sure. Obviously, the cafe value loves him because of his historical statistics and splits. That might not be totally the case here. Obviously, we've seen a different David Price this year, but in terms of everything, I'm in for tonight. Give it to me in tournaments, not necessarily in cash like Pomeranz and Bumgarner. Moving down here, some pretty rough options, honestly. Gio Gonzalez, not looking at him against the Cubs. Obviously, like Scherzer last night, Gio is not in the same type of quality as him. Jordan Zimmerman, I'm okay with that. You like the high, the semi-weak White Sox offense. Obviously, they went off yesterday, but that's not indicative of who they are sort of as an offense and as a lineup, especially against right-handed pitching. They're one of the worst in the majors since 2015. So keep that in mind when you're setting lineups. Jamie Garcia, gotta love that strikeout rate versus the Astros K percentage there. I think he has quite a bit of upside there. Obviously, it's lefty versus righty against those top three, but I don't think you're too worried about that. In terms of sort of upside and downside, he's probably got the highest ceiling, lowest floor discrepancy of the night. So I think he's a definite tournament play. I like him in tournaments, so I think you can throw him in there and feel relatively confident that either something good will happen or that lineup will be dead in the first 15 minutes of his start. Sort of like James Shields last night. You kind of just knew it was going downhill pretty quickly. In terms of Ulysse Chassin, obviously not optimal this year. He's kind of struggled for the most part, especially since getting traded. But he did have that one really solid start. And against this Minnesota Twins lineup, I do think he has some upside. So at 7K, you're loving that. And we'll switch to FanDuel prices in a sec. But yeah, we're going to quickly go down DraftKings here. But in terms of that and low end options, I mean, that's kind of what you're looking at here. I don't think you can really go lower. You're not touching Irvin Santana. Chris Young's a home run machine. Evaldi against the Rockies and Coors, not digging that at all. And then Miguel Gonzalez, not a good matchup against the Tigers. Obviously, you see those run totals right here. They're all above 5. That's not something you usually target there. Same goes for Tillman, Archie Bradley. You're just not going at those offenses, unfortunately. You're not going against the Red Sox. And the Dodgers aren't great, but Bradley, I don't necessarily trust him, even at a small sample size. So you're kind of looking at Nicasio. He does have some interesting upside, but again, you're not liking him against this Mets team. So I think you're just avoiding that as well. In terms of Jake Odorizzi, you're not liking that righty-lefty matchup with Cano Seager sitting there and then the beginning of that lineup. So I think they're going to do some damage on him tonight, and I'm not touching him, even though he's obviously coming off a few decent starts. Brandon Finnegan, the cafe value does not like him, as you can see, 5.76, but I do think there's some intriguing upside there. In terms of the Braves versus lefties, they are by far the worst in ISO, like 29th in WOBA and their last in WRC Plus since 2015 and 2014. So this has been a trend for a while that the Braves struggle against lefties. And in Turner, I like Finnegan. I think he's a decent play. Obviously, he's a little overpriced for sort of what he's provided this year, but I think that's a nice tournament swerve on a 15-game slate. In terms of who are we looking at here? Who haven't we gone over? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. So beyond that, I think that's kind of what you're looking at here. Let's go to FanDuel, see what we got here. All right. Oh, we went back. All right, here we go. Here we go, guys. We got this. Russ, you got this, Russ. Put the money line out there. We like those models, folks. They really do help buoy the cafe value. It makes it a really strong indicator. I've been using it a lot more lately. Definitely helps out as the sample sizes get bigger throughout the season as well. Again, same type of deal here. Bumgarner, a little less expensive, so that's nice. It's still expensive for FanDuel, though. Projections there, I mean, I could see 10 to 13 strikeouts tonight against this Brewers team who has a high strikeout rate, especially against lefties. So you like that. Obviously mentioned the upside with Price. You're looking at Lackey again. Decent price here, but again, not what you're looking for, I don't think, especially against those upside options, and especially with Drew Pomeranz right there. I mean, that is just definitely what you're looking for. Gio Gonzalez, again, not touching him. In the same vein, Taijuan Walker, interesting upside, I think, against this Rays lineup, who's been getting shut down of late. They don't really have much upside beyond Longoria, and I don't love that matchup for Longoria tonight either. So, give me Jamie Garcia. I'll take it. Obviously has that upside, but Taijuan Walker as well in that range, I think, are both viable options. In terms of, yeah, I mean, below that, obviously, Chassin again pops up. Huge FanDuel cafe value there, 26. So you're really liking that. Again, Finnegan pops up here. That makes more sense to me. Not in on Irvin Santana, though. So, and again, once again mentioned Evaldi against the Rockies in Coors. It's just not a viable option, even though he's been pitching well. And outside of Coors, if that was in Yankee Stadium, that'd be something we'd be looking at, but not so much in the Coors there. So that's the general gist of what we're looking at here on this 15 gamer. So as the day goes along, I think we're going to find that the lineups are going to be set and some guys are going to pop up maybe as a value, but generally this is how I'm looking at it here. One more guy, Julio Terrain. I want to add an L to his name, Tel Harain. There needs to be an L there, in my opinion. But there isn't, so we're going to have to move on from that and forgive and release. So looking at his projection, sort of looking at his projected value, I think that's something you could think about against this Reds team. Not a perfect spot for that Reds offense, and when it's not, they tend to struggle. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. So this was the Pitcher Nail Down. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, check out Daily Fantasy Cafe for all our awesome tools and content.